So I have 5 kids, twins and triplets. Yeah, I know. All boys. Yeah. And no, multiples do not run in my family, and yes, it was IVF, so just get that on the table. My ex-husband, or as I sometimes like to think of him, my baby daddy, so, is the visionary entrepreneur, sorry, I'm nervous, is the visionary Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX. I met him when I was 18, he was 19, we were at college. He would call me up. He always had classical music playing in the background. And he would ask me out, and I would say no. And he would call me up again, and he would ask me out, and I would say no. And it went on like this until we ended up living together in an apartment in the Bay Area. I have one son who was diagnosed with mild to moderate autism when he was around 4 years old. He's now considered to be off the spectrum, but he has this really, unique and beautiful mind. And the other day, I took him out to Texas barbecue, to the horror of his vegetarian brother. And he looked at me, and out of the blue, he said, "Mom, what's a faux tag, a photo?" And I said, "Photographic memory." And he said, yeah. Everybody always tells me that I have one. So what is it? And I explained to him that, well, you store memories as photographs and video clips, and when you're trying to remember something, you scan these images until you can extract the information that you want. And by the way, you have a great sense of color. And so he looked at me and his jaw dropped. And he said, "You mean other people don't think like that?" And I was glad that I could reflect that back to him as a strength. Because strength and vulnerability go hand in hand. What sets you apart can serve as a unique differentiating factor, or as a friend of mine likes to say, your factor of awesomeness. One of the leading novelists of the Victorian era was a writer named George Eliot, also considered to be one of the greatest writers in the English language. George's real name was Mary Ann Evans, and she grew up as a bit of an odd duck because she was a brilliant girl in an age when brilliant girl was an oxymoron. And she was considered to be ugly. She was considered to be unmarriageable. And she never did marry. But when she hit middle age, she shacked up with this younger guy who really adored her. And they lived together out of wedlock for the rest of their lives. And society, of course, was like shocked and appalled, and they would not invite Mary Ann to join them in any of their reindeer games. So, out on the edge, she created her own circle, of freethinkers and bohemians and some of the leading intellectuals of the day. And she wrote the 7 novels that made her name. See, Mary Ann Evans was a fallen woman, but George Eliot was a literary genius. The dancer and choreographer Martha Graham, who founded modern dance, has a famous quote about creativity that I just love, and it goes like this: "There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that translates through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, it is unique. If you block it, it will not exist in any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine if it is good, or if it is valuable, or how it compares to any other expression. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, and to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself and your work. You just have to stay open and aware to the urges that motivate you, and keep the channel open. And part of the work of keeping the channel open is to show up day after day after day at a room of your own or a corner of your own where you can pursue your obsessions. And when Elon and I would travel, and we had to fill out those forms at customs that wanted to know your occupation, Elon never wrote down CEO or king of the world or Studley International Playboy. He wrote engineer. And he wore jeans and t-shirts to work. And one of the things that he told me, although I don't know if it's as true now as it was back then, was that engineers could not quite figure out why it was that the suits made the big money when it was the engineers who actually built the stuff that they were selling. And meanwhile, the suits would listen to the engineers talk, and they would have no idea what they were saying. And that's when I realized that Elon was somebody who had learned to speak both languages. And he could move between the tribes because he was an engineer in a suit. And he brought together worlds. And this is what an engineer does. I mean, this is what a visionary does. They not only create something new, but they become the living embodiment of it. They don't just tell us a new story. They are that story. And soon they don't even have to open up their mouths. They just walk into the room. I recently read a profile on Elon, and he's quoted as saying something to a friend, and this happened during the time we were still married together. And he said something to this friend that he never said to me. And he was saying that he was prepared to sacrifice everything, his entire fortune, to get a rocket into orbit. And he said, I don't care if Justine and the kids and I end up living in Justine's parents' basement. I'm going to make this happen. And so I read this, and I kind of wanted to go back in time and go up to him and take him by the shoulders and look him very seriously in the eyes and say, have you seen my parents' basement? So I'd like to wrap up by getting to Elon's advice, which is to always go beyond memorizing formulas, passing tests, to always go deep into the underlying principles of a subject, to track any problem down to the root cause buried in the dirt and the dark. And I would add to that and say, be brave enough, be bold enough, and be insane enough to see things more completely, more vividly, more fully than everybody else around you. And refuse to look away from what you see and what you know, even if people want to burn you at the stake. Because visionaries, they take all that passion and their badass personalities and their mad skills and the mastery of their chosen subject matter, and they use it to put themselves on the line unlike anybody else you'll ever meet. And it's this that allows them to open up windows into another deeper reality in which transformation is possible and things of awe happen on a regular basis. Because in the beginning, we don't trust them because we think they're crazy, but by the end, we trust them because we know they're crazy. They're crazy enough to accomplish anything and risk it all in order to bring us something new to believe in. They might make lousy husbands and terrible wives. They might be the friend who never sends you a birthday present and forgets to show up for coffee. But they bring light to the dark, and they show us the universe. Keep the channel open. Thank you.